Identifying Bitcoin's pivotal price points doesn't need to be complicated. Today we're going to quickly and easily identify the levels you need to be watching for BTC. Today we're going to be looking at Bitcoin's current most important price levels, and as we can see as I film this, the price is just beneath $43,000. We've had about a 2% increase this month with a big spike to the upside following, well, just prior to the BTC ETF approval, and then a little bit of a dump afterwards. I think many people were maybe a little bit underwhelmed at the immediate positive reaction following that. So we've kind of just been chopping a little bit. On a longer term, it's been fairly decent, but yeah, over the past few weeks or so, pretty stagnant price action. So many people are looking towards what the next big point is going to be, both to the upside and to the downside for the BTC trading and investing, just either to potentially accumulate more, maybe a few people wanting to lock in some profits, maybe a few are just looking for some more short-term trades, so just looking at these pivotal key points of price action to really try and maximize their gains. So I think the first place to start is the Bitcoin Pi cycle top indicator. And what we can see is if we just zoom in here, after we've reclaimed this, it's acted as a great level of support over the past few months. Initially here, after we made our bottom as it was resistance all the way down on price action here, we broke through, came back, retested this twice, and then once we actually broke beneath this in August of 2023, it took a little bit to actually break back above it, but since then we've substantially broken far above this, and it currently sits at about $37,000, which is a pretty key level we're going to be looking at. There's a few metrics we're going to be looking at. We'll move over to a chart, and we'll see there's quite a bit of confluence with a lot of these levels. Secondly, we'll look at the cycle master chart. This one's been absolutely spot on at calling the key level of resistance over the short period. We can see if we just zoom in here, it's predicted this Bitcoin fair value at currently around $47,000 nearly. And if we just zoom right in on price action, we can see this is exactly where Bitcoin's price action has most recently topped out. So definitely a key level to be watching. So here, if I just move over to the TradingView chart, we can maybe play around with the charts a little bit better. So we can see here as Bitcoin's been pretty much stagnating a little bit over the past few weeks, it has been kind of boring. One thing we can do is add on those two metrics we just looked at, which is the Pi cycle top indicator here. And one really interesting thing is this is on a weekly chart. We can see that this green line is actually scaled up. Typically the Pi cycle top's on the daily chart, but we can see here that this has been a pretty interesting level of support over the past few weeks. Just one interesting thing I've noticed, if you do want to use these indicators here, pretty much all of the technical charts and quite a few of the other charts we have available on lookintobitcoin.com actually have TradingView iterations with a site subscription. So I do think that's quite interesting there. But if we just drop down to the daily here, we'll see that this actually lines up at around this 37, approaching $38,000 region. And as well as that, we also have the Bitcoin golden ratio multiplier, which we didn't actually discuss previously, but again, is looking fairly similar to the fair market value price, just this middle line here, at around $47,000, $48,000, and has really provided a strong level of resistance as Bitcoin's come up and tested this area of resistance here, potentially where a lot of sellers are looking to maybe lock in some profits, especially with that ETF announcement maybe being a little bit lackluster. We could see that we had a little bit of a rejection off of this line. One thing we can do is just zoom out and go to a higher time frame, because I really don't think that technical analysis needs to be too difficult. I know you see lots of people on Bitcoin Twitter and other social media platforms, YouTube, etc., really overcomplicating the process of technical analysis. So I'm just going to really quickly show you that it can be a very simple process. This is something you don't need to do on a 5-minute chart and really be charting all day, every day. What I'm going to do is just identify a few key levels just on the weekly chart that immediately stand out to me. I'm not even going to look at the current price action. I'm just going to look at previously where have been interesting points and where Bitcoin may have reversed previously to see how they actually line up to the current price action. So again, not even looking at the current price, I'm just putting these on. And if we scroll over here, we can see that, again, they line up quite perfectly. If I drop back down to the daily here, not even looking, these were price levels from years ago. We can see they still hold strong today. Exactly where Bitcoin topped out in this most recent move, this level of resistance we can see here, and potentially the big level of support we'll see if we add to retrace any further. I do also think there is the technical psychological levels of the key round numbers. So 40,000, which we'll plot on the chart there, and above up here, 50,000, I think is another key level we need to be watching. And once we've added these on, again, we can just add on the Pi cycle indicator, the golden ratio multiplier, and even the 200 weekly moving average, which it would be a bit of a shame if we were to come down and retest that, but we need to be open and prepared for all possibilities. And we can see here that a lot of them are actually providing quite a lot of confluence. If I just get this drawing tool out here, we can see that this golden ratio multiplier line is going to come up and potentially provide some confluence support at this $40,000 level, unless Bitcoin is to retrace very suddenly. But even then, it's currently sat around $37,500. So I think that'd be a very strong level of support if we were to retrace that much. We can see that this green line up here is also providing quite a lot of resistance, as it has done for the past few months, really. And that is lining up in this $48,000 to $50,000 level, and potentially as well all the way down here to the $46,000 level-ish, where Bitcoin has had quite a lot of resistance over the past few months as well. So I think those will be two key areas to watch. So then just zooming out a little more, we can maybe get a little bit of a clearer picture of how this is looking for Bitcoin. As I said, this doesn't need to be a very complex process. This took only a few minutes, and we can see as these lining up, we have very clear levels of support and resistance. And what we can do is just wait for some of these levels to be either retested as support for potential accumulation. I'd say between this $40,000 and this $37,500 region for Bitcoin, if we were to retrace, would be a pretty good area to potentially pick up some discounted BTC after a near 20% retracement from our local high we've set, especially with this golden ratio multiplier coming in for confluence. And we can also say as well, if we are to pump even higher, then we again have this golden ratio multiplier converging with this $48,000 to $50,000 psychological level. That'll probably be a strong area of resistance. And if we were to break even lower than the lines we've identified today, again, if we just go to the weekly chart here, we don't need to make this very complicated. If I just hide these metrics, we can just zoom in and say that probably the previous levels we've had down here would be again, pretty disastrous level to go down to given how strong Bitcoin's been, but we need to be prepared. Or potentially this level here. So they've come out at $30,000 to $32,000, and then potentially even lower than that, about a $25,000, $26,000 Bitcoin. And again, if we just load up the 200 weekly moving average, that's actually loading up pretty nicely alongside these two levels. So if we were to have a pretty stark retracement beneath this level of support, then I'd be looking to this region to potentially really load up and accumulate some cheap BTC. And then above that, if we were to break above these levels of resistance we've just identified, again, I'll keep it simple. We'll just remove all of these drawings, come back in. And again, I'm going to look at price levels that were relevant years ago in the previous bull cycle. I'd say, again, I think this is one we already identified around there. And then up here, I'd say that is a pretty key level. And potentially this point here, what I'm looking for is levels where Bitcoin's price action has come up and had a strong level of support or rejection. So we can see a lot of sellers either stepping in and Bitcoin retraces. And once we've seen that happen a couple of times, we can say that that's probably a key level that investors are going to be looking at. As well, if we come down and test an area as support and Bitcoin's price bounces quite rapidly from that, then we can also assume that a lot of buyers are interested at that level too. So again, if we just scroll back over, we can say if we were to break above that $48,000 to $50,000 level, we can say that $52,000 is the immediate target of upside above that. And then again, we're looking at probably the $58,000 to $59,000, $60,000 psychological level as the next big key level of resistance if we were to break into the $50,000 region. But ultimately, this may take weeks to play out. It may even take months to play out. We could see earlier in 2023, we had months and months of sideways consolidation, choppy price action that really sometimes you just need to wait out. You need to dollar cost averaging if that's what your strategy is recommending you to do so, and really just do other things. You don't need to spend all day in front of the charts. Of course, you can drop down to lower time frames if that's what you want to do. But here we want to keep things simple. We want to maximize our free time, not slave away in front of other charts all day. So I think just combining these few metrics, looking for confluence, is one of the best ways to outperform a vast majority of Bitcoin investors. Also, if you haven't already, please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications to ensure you're receiving all of our content as soon as it's released. And make sure to check out all the resources we've discussed today, as well as the many more that are all available on lookintobitcoin.com, your number one source for Bitcoin information. So just to summarize, looking at a number of market cycle, on-chain and technical levels, as well as psychological levels too, we can look to see what areas of price action are going to be the most pivotal in the coming days, weeks, and months. And we will likely see some sell-side resistance between that $46,000 to $48,000 region we identified on the charts, with the next upside price target being $52,000, and above that is probably around $60,000 before we see a key level of resistance and sell-side pressure. And beneath current price, there's likely substantial buy interest between that $40,000 to $38,000 region, especially as that'll be about a 20% retracement from our most recent high, which is definitely some nice discounted BTC, not too far away from the halving as well. And multiple metrics are providing confluence of support for all of these levels we've identified. So we can really say that they're probably very much pivotal and influential points of price action. But the most important thing of all of this is to make sure you're managing your risk accordingly. Just because we've identified some price levels doesn't necessarily mean that price will respect them. And we need to make sure that we're limiting our losses, really preventing too much downside negative impact on our portfolios. If you like this video, then please visit lookintobitcoin.com, where you can also consider becoming a site subscriber to gain access to professional resolution charts, advanced macro and portfolio data tools, in-depth crypto industry reports, live and personalized indicator alerts, private TradingView scripts, and more, all for a fraction of the standard industry price. And let me know what your thoughts are on the current BTC price action. What levels are you going to be watching to potentially accumulate some discounted BTC, or maybe even lock in some profits? As I said, let me know down in the comments and on social media. I look forward to reading and replying to all of them. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.